Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is G. We are going to look at the chart for the April 6th, the week of April 6th, which means the 7 days following April. I said April 2 or 3 times. May. You see the chart? May 6th. The other thing is that Mars, once it touches Celestia, it's going to be conjunct the North Node. There's still a lot going on in terms of the big T-square, that I've been talking about, the cardinal T-square, inability to get shit done and the frustration and the tension and that great cross energy, which my individuality, my freedoms, my rights, my ability to start something, to take action, to get something done, my identity, how I look literally, right? My very existence, right? Cancer energy is going to take us to emotions and feelings and home and family. The moon rules Cancer energy, feminine energy, lunar cycles, moon cycles, home, family, emotions, feelings, women, the public, feminine energy, strong feminine energy, emotional security, emotional safety. The moon sticks in the bricks too, like literally where I live. The next is Libra energy. Yep, the next one is going to be Libra. So these are where we still have the 14, 15 degree. And you see, we got Black Moon Lilith there. And I'm really not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is how I'm going to cover it because it's the backstory that's been the backstory since the beginning of 2024. And here we are almost halfway through the freaking year. We're in the 5th month, and it's still this cardinal grand cross. This time, Black Moon Lilith is part of that party. Yeah, conjunct, right? It's already gone over the South Node, so I would have talked about that in the previous week's video. But relationships, diplomacy, negotiations, important relationships. This is business, but it's also marriage. Think about it. Courtroom, justice, equality. Think about it, right? Think about it. Venus rules that sign. And then the last of the 4 cardinals is Capricorn. And the 15 degree, there it is, Vega, the fixed star, like cornucopia, we'll just say 15 degrees, right? Capricorn, government, business, structure, order, creating structures and orders, building. What are we building? Rules, regulations. Why are there rules and regulations? Because we got to make sure the shit is set up for success so we can achieve our goal. Like that's how Capricorn energy works. Duty, responsibility. It can represent the partnerships, the long-term commitments, Capricorn energy. Normally, the recommendation is when something gets built in a Capricorn energy, Saturn cycle, like significant for you in your chart, that's something that's going to last. So sometimes, we see marriages because they're so, normally when people say, hey, we're going to tie the knot, they're not going in thinking I want to spend next year with this person. No, when we tie the knot, we're like, I want to spend forever, right? Like that's the fairy tale anyway. Not to say that that can't happen, of course, but I want to spend the most of my possible time building the rest of our lives together in whatever way that looks for you. So this difficult grand cross is still there. And that's government and corporations, by the way, for Capricorn as well. All right. So if there's many holdups in your life, holdups as far as jobs or promotions and recognition, that's Capricorn energy. Promotions, recognition, raises, like the kudos, right? So it's that big grand cross. Now, the teaching with the grand crosses they are difficult, they are stress, they are tension. However, a great cross can create balance, and usually the most growth comes out of those because we learn, because of the 4 angled edges, we learn how to talk. We learn how we're forced. We have no option. We have to learn to work together in our grand cross energy. So it's those 4 cardinal areas of your chart is what you're working on. And then you look up this house that they're in. You see house number 2, house number 5. This is just an example chart. 2, 5, 8. And this one is like 10 and 11, a little bit of Aries in both. You see, and your chart may look like that as well. Or it could look completely different. But knowing what those house numbers represent, the keywords will tell you where you're experiencing this frustration, this tension, where you've been trying to get something done, but you can't get something done. It can be frustrating. But overall, we're creating something new because there's a lot of new coming on board here. We talk about this week, May 6th, and we see that we've got Mars in Aries. That would have happened last week. Mars would have pretty much just entered Aries last week. It would have been at 29 degrees of Pisces or Neptune. And we talked about that, how Neptune can subdue the weapons, can make shit disappear, can make the soldier really sleepy and tired and your physical body, make you super sensitive to substances. So, what I would expect is this week, there will be a timeline because by the end of this week, it will be conjunct Salacia, and Salacia is the consort. It's Neptune's chick. So it's the waters, the cold, icy waters, illusions and delusions, and it can slow things down. It can make us feel sleepy and tired and dreamy and fantasy, right? It can make things look a little fuzzy and confusing even. We think of the murky waters, we think of the deep, deep ocean and how it's so dark down there. And I'm like lost. I don't know where I'm going. This is temporary, but what happens is when Mars gets there, it may feel a little slow. It may feel a little sluggish. That's a possibility. Or if nothing else, some confusion. All right, so that's not going to be until the end of the week. So you've got from the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th at the most. Because for those of you who are sensitive, seriously, for those of you who are sensitive, by the 11th, and the 12th and the 13th, that Mars is close enough. It's close enough to Salacia where you're kind of feeling it. However, it will show up differently because it depends on where your Aries energy at 13 degrees is in your life. The other thing is that Mars, once it touches Salacia, it's going to be conjunct the North Node. So the following week video, we're going to be talking about Mars conjunct the North Node. All right. So before I get ahead of myself, let's back up just a little bit so we understand how we got to there. With this chart, there is a new moon, and it is May 7th. A lot of Taurus energy this week. Earth is the big highlight of this chart because it's not just about the new moon, right? We know Jupiter is in Taurus, we know Uranus is in Taurus. So the new moon, we think Taurus and banking and values and the money and the bank. All right. So you think about all the different news that you may hear or don't hear about banking, the banking sector or finances. We think of the earth itself, the health of the planet. We think of food and animals. We think of even the water. We think of the soil, the dirt, the farming. Farming, that's a big one with Taurus energy. Making sure that we have food security. That's a huge one. And we've been talking in the past about making sure that we get supplies to people who need it, people who are victims of war, casualties of war, people who have nothing to do with the war, but there's wars happening, there's fighting going on, and making sure there's ample supplies. And this week, just like in last week's video, it looks positive because Ceres, who's all about food and grain, and the government is trining. There's a nice, beautiful trine with Uranus. And Uranus can be airplanes, it's technology, and we can even think of drone, we can think of shipping, anything that was like a creation of man. Whatever man invented, something big. We think of, like for your home, you're thinking air conditioning, your HVAC systems, your big appliances, your washer, your dryers, like things that really made a huge difference in all of humanity's life. Like that's Uranus energy. So it's science, right? It's the person in the laboratory creating, right? And trying to create things that are supposed to like help us in a way. But we're getting upon that time in our society, because yes, AI is part of this. We're getting upon that time in our society where it's like we've come so far. We're like, oh my God, are we going to be like our own worst enemies? We're creating things and we just got to make sure we have all the safety nets set up so that we stay safe, right? So Ceres trining Uranus, a creative, unconventional way to supply food and grain and money even. Yeah, you see the blue line. That blue line represents the trine. Now I've got a black line draw. That's that supportive trine energy. Whenever we say trine, that means something easily happens. It's government and business because it's Capricorn, right? Companies. We think of corporations, structure, order, and building, right? And we think of long term, go slow, do it right, follow the rules, long term Capricorn, duty, responsibility, trining Uranus. Uranus can be an authority figure, the one in charge. The one in charge. This can be somebody in charge of setting the interest rates for the United States. This can be anyone who's an authority figure in your life, the boss at your job. The sun can also hold that role. The sun is also in Taurus. So there's a lot of really powerful energy in Taurus because another authority in Taurus is Jupiter. There's a lot of power in Taurus energy in May. Lot of power. And we also see even Venus is there. Venus rules Taurus energy. Right. Taurus, money, my values, my desires. Think of your desires and your love. Some confuse lust and love. Blame it on Taurus. Blame it on Taurus and Scorpio for that matter. Blame it on Venus and Mars, right? The attraction, the sensuality, right? So the combination factor and things getting heightened will be big because we're going to talk about Algo. The new moon will happen on the 7th. There's going to be a separate video for that. So if you haven't seen it, look below. I'll have a comment. I'll have the link below for you to watch the detail on that. I'm not going to do a deep dive on it here, but it is in Taurus energy, a new moon in Taurus. It happens at 18 degrees. Okay. 18 degrees. So for those of you who know enough to go and figure that out already on your own, there you go. But remember, desire is a big deal with Taurus. Creature comforts. Again, a new moon on the 7th, but at the same time, Jupiter moves. Jupiter starts off around 25 degrees. You see the Jupiter in the blue, right? 25, 30. Got Jupiter drawn right there. By the end of the week, Jupiter's going to get to 27. But sitting at 26 degrees is Algo. Hercules is sitting at 26 as well. So Algo is fascinating for multiple reasons. Number one, Algo energy all by itself in Taurus is a fixed star. So if you've got your chart and you're like, okay, where the hell, what is this Algo stuff? I don't know. Right. It can be tricky. The thing is, you're just looking to find out where is the Algo. You know it's in Taurus and you want to better understand what house number it sits in. Okay. So in this chart, this Algo at 26 would be in the first house. Do you see how I got there? Do you see how I could say that it's in the first house? Why would that be? Well, because 26 degrees, this first house began at 23 degrees. Right? You have to, like, there's multiple layers of information in an astrology chart. I know it's daunting at first, but if you hang in there, trust me, you'll get it. You might not get all of it, and that's fine. It's a lifelong learning event because it's always changing and evolving, but the basics are a must. The basics stay the same, but the energies, the signs and the planets start evolving as the humans evolve. And so we can attach more definitions and keywords. So 23 degrees is where this first house cusp line begins, which is the same as the ascendant. The first house cusp line is the same as the ascendant, which is why the software has that arrow right there. 2354. So anything higher than that, because this clock in particular runs counterclockwise. And that would be another reason why people get it confusing. They're used to looking at a clock on the wall where it goes clockwise to the right. No, an astrology chart goes counterclockwise. Okay. So it's going to run like that. So higher up would go like that. And there's Algo. You can barely see it because I've got it really small and I have too many objects on my charts because I'm nuts. So we've got Algo. Algo, it is a double star system. It has phases which are of greater and lesser brightness. So literally, astronomy, you got your telescope out, you're looking for the double star system. There will be times when it's brighter in color where you can see it and times where it kind of goes hidden and you can't see it. So in the old beliefs, it is considered to be held dangerous and difficult when it goes dark, when you can't see it. Now, because it's in Taurus, it's going to have to do with values, people being fixated on something, people refusing change, refusing to release, refusing to bend. We think desires, but Taurus energy is so stubborn and rigid and fixed. It's like the bull will not move until it gets angered, and then it moves and it charges, right? Like literally it starts running. So this can be powerful energy. It can be energy where we're trying to work with it. We're trying to better understand, where's Taurus in my life? How am I stubborn, especially over things that I value? So whether it's people, so we might be jealous. Some people might take that energy up a whole nother level and become a little stalkerish with it. The desire energy, if we're not aware of it, it can go that far and it can be dangerous, right? It can be. So in modern times, this energy is connected to bringing what is subconscious to the light. It can unleash great passions. So, folks, the moral of the story for Algo and for Taurus energy, for the fixed signs, I think I can say in general, is we have to learn how to take those powerful energies, because the fixed signs are quite powerful. And we have to find ways to use them healthy, to channel them in a healthy endeavor, a healthy project, a healthy challenge, something that is there to, like Taurus, example. Taurus is super creative. These people are farmers. These people cook in the kitchen. They're really creative with their food. These can be your creative pastry chefs, people who do creative stuff with their chocolates, people who literally are like in the kitchens and creating new things, like those food scientists and stuff. Like Taurus energy, really strong. But that's not all. This is the voice. Taurus rules the spoken word. So Taurus energy, we can channel it and speak really powerful orators. But we're supposed to be the guiding light, not in a way where it has to do with greed. And that's the caution here, because it's in Taurus. So greed and power, you have to be cautious of. Everybody, whoever, wherever you live, pay attention to people, to those who are in power, to those who have a platform, to those who have, you know, they can persuade people with their voice. And when it comes to the money and the banking, you want to always just be aware of the real agenda. And what I mean by the real agenda is greed and control and power. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. As an example, as a quick example, I was recently looking at Adolf Hitler's chart. He had a natal sun in Taurus at 0 degrees. Now, he had a lot of other stuff, which is why you had someone who was such a great orator, who was very persuasive, who was a power control freak for sure, but who had that eugenics philosophy where he and it wasn't just the eugenics, like he has points in his chart. If you want me to do his chart as a video, as an example, let me know. If there's enough people that ask for it, I'll do it. But he has a point in his chart when you look at the asteroids where he truly believed he was the superior race, like without a doubt. And I just did not know. Did you all know? I mentioned this in the live over the weekend, that in the 30s in the United States, do you know that we had over 4 million people here in the United States that supported Hitler's philosophy? No shit. I'm not making it up. Google it. Go to your websites, go to places that you know are not crap, that are legitimate sources of information. And that's a real thing, right? And so all that kind of stuff is to just kind of tell you the story and to give you a little bit more insight into the desire, energy, and power and control. All right. Now, does that mean when Jupiter is conjunct Algo that all of a sudden something horrible is going to happen that day? That it's not a one-day event. Jupiter's not a super fast mover. So I believe by the 12th, Jupiter is already at 27. You see that there? So it's really like 5, 6, 5, 7, 5, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th. That it's conjunct Algol, that it gets close to 26 and then it's at 26. Now, what I will add to this is Jupiter adds to things And here in the States anyway, I don't know about everywhere else, but boy, that company, Boeing and airplanes, Jupiter is airplanes, folks. Maybe not the airplane and the physical airplane itself, but it does represent traveling through the air and flight and going on vacation and having to fly over the ocean or having to fly across the country. Or for some of us, if we work 9 to 5 and we're traveling a lot, like from one state or a couple states over, we get on airplanes daily. Yeah. So we're seeing crazy videos, wheels, bolts, doors, uh, engine covers, like just, I mean, like a lot of shit. Now, this is to be expected because we've got Pluto in Aquarius, because that is also the inventions. Aquarius, remember, I started talking about, well, I said Uranus. Uranus rules Aquarius. So when you hear me say a word, I'm kind of, it's like I'm forcing you to learn what the planet's rulers are, right? Because you'll hear me talk about the ruler and sidestep the sign, right? Yes, you'll hear me do that all the time, and I don't even do it on purpose. It's just the way it comes out. So the point is, it's the same thing. It rules inventions. Think of Kitty Hawk, the Wright brothers, right? An invention. It changed humanity. So Jupiter and Algo, 26 degrees. You've got roughly from the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. We'll give it that timeline. And like I said, sways of power, money, banking can have something to do with the judicial system and judges, Supreme Court. When we see Jupiter energy, we think of foreigners and migration. When we see people who may not look like you and me, whoever you and me is, right? It's beliefs and religion as well, Jupiter energy. And that takes me to Jupiter getting to 27 on the 12th. And the reason I have it there is because at 27 degrees in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, is the galactic center. And normally, galactic center is a big event. It's really powerful, super, super powerful. It's a black hole in our galaxy, kind of is the Hoover in the sky. A lot of power sucks things in. So we think of events. Now, these are not world events as in Earth events that I'm talking about. I'm not saying like things can't happen, but I think more along the lines of the Supreme Court or justices and federal justices in states. I think more along the lines of that and rulings, to be honest. I think of Jupiter over here at 26, 27 in Taurus and money and banking and finances in an exact quincunx. If I pull back on the chart, it's got a quincunx energy. It's my purple line. It's my quincunx line of that uncomfortableness, of the irritation and the agitation between our values and our beliefs, right? I will say also that this is the higher education. So we think of going to college and how much that costs, and possibly support and hearing about to help people help the forgiveness with institutional loans, right? Loans for education, because education has become so unbelievably unaffordable. Let's provide education and hold that as a value. Jupiter and Taurus, hold it as a value. It shouldn't be for those who have only and not for the have nots. Oh my gosh. The sun will be conjunct Uranus. Yeah, the sun will be conjunct Uranus. Now, the thing is, it's like a weekend thing. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the 23rd, right? Because the sun's going to move 7 degrees, right? And so she's going to get to, right, it'll be over the weekend. So again, remember I mentioned the sun and Uranus are both authority figures. Again, I think some sort of funding possibly, definitely something digital even. And I have some other deep dive videos on other events, but we think of the global financing and banking because Pluto in Aquarius, 2 degrees, going backwards, retrograde, changing and transforming global finances on a deep level. Okay. On a very deep level. Countries around the world are loading up on gold. What's going on? If they're loading up on gold and all of a sudden they're going to tie their currency to gold, then it becomes a more stable currency. But there's a lot of other things that go into that recipe, folks. It's not just that simple. So This is just to share information. It's not to say anything like, hey, look out, this is what it's going to be. It's saying there's a lot of new. And so that takes us to Mercury, it takes us to Hygeia, it takes us to Aries energy. All right. This week, already at the beginning, you see Hygeia conjunct the North Node. It's in Aries, so that's fight energy. Hygeia is the report card. Aries is I want to start something. The North Node is where we're headed. It's about our future. Hello, Taffy. It's about our future. So we think of weapons, but we think of freedom and independence. We think of our impulsiveness, right? We think of our willingness to fight, to get involved in fights. Aries energies, yeah, it's got strong startup energy. Yeah. And Aries energy sextiles Aquarius energy and or making things easier for things to occur, for things to begin on a big level because Pluto is there. Pluto's already roto rooting. It's already tilling. You ever had a garden and you had to, kind of before the season begins, you have to turn all the land over. You have to literally till it and flip it over. Or if you're lucky, you have that equipment that can do the tilling of the land for you. But that's kind of what Pluto does because it wants to get all those old roots out. It wants to shake things up. It wants to add some air and some oxygen and get things flowing and moving and growing. Right. Creator energy. So Mercury in Aries here at the beginning of the week, she's at 20 and she's conjunct Chiron. Now, it's about wounds, wounds of the body, wounds about my identity, wounds from the past. This can be culturally, like people who look different, how about this? People who don't look like white males. That's just the reality. The white male has uh, the privilege. The white male has the privilege. So the rest of us, right? We have wounds because we're not the white male. Yeah, Mars energy, right? Can be soldiers, masculine energy. If people think I'm picking on men, masculine energy. Ambitious, passionate, driven, assertive, impatient, aggressive. This energy is young. It has to mature decades before it develops into the fine wine. Remember, that's Mars. So there's news about wounds, news about wars, okay? Something about history and the past, something maybe that happened to a culture, to a civilization, to a society. I can think of a lot, but I'm not going to name them all here. But, we know of all the different things going on, especially when we think of the promised land, the Holy Land, right? Palestine. We think of all that wonderful, beautiful land that's considered Holy Land that people are fighting over all this fiery Aries energy. It's not that it's just a big deal right now. Like these wars have been going on forever. This kind of looks like when you have Mercury conjunct it, it's almost like it rehashes something, right? We hear about it again, or we're viewing it again, or maybe there's a hot spot, right? It's like something happens again, possibly. We see that. But eventually Mercury will get to like 25, 26, 27 degrees, which will be good because when she does at the end of this week, Mercury being at that degree means Mercury will be out of her shadow zone from the Mercury retrograde. And if you had plans and you need to move forward with something, you can move forward a little bit more confidently now because now you have all the data that you needed to make your plans. Okay. Yeah, I always got to point to Humea because she is also changing things in Scorpio, and Pluto is moving backwards towards her because it's just fixed energy. Yeah, fixed energy, fixed Scorpio. Pluto rules Scorpio. Right. So if you've got Humea, who is kind of like that creation energy, feminine energy, she can restore where there's been destruction. She's at 0 degrees retrograding. And there's Pluto slowly going backwards, right? Slowly going backwards. And some call that a square at that point. Normally when Pluto gets closer by the minutes, then we're like, oh shit, that's Pluto. Now I see it. It's showing up. So with that said, I want you to go watch the video on Sedna entering air. You see this is sedna right here? This faucet represents water. I don't know why they did that symbol, but they did. It looks like a faucet you can turn on and off. Trust me, sedna is a lot deeper than that, and it's much more powerful than just some faucet in your house. I don't think it's the best symbol, but that's just the symbol it is. But it's water, and it's moved into Gemini. All right. So if you haven't seen that video, I'm going to put that link also below. If for some reason you don't see it, please comment to me and say, gee, you said something about that Sedna video, and I will get the link for you. I don't want you to have to search for it. Someone had asked me something about the hurricane season. And I said, well, according to the Weather Channel, they said it's going to be amped up. And what I will say here is because Sedna is water, because Sedna is about the past, but it's about deep wounds and hurts. It's intense energy. Let's just put it like that. Super intense, super intense. It's the kind of energy that you probably don't want to have to live through, that kind of stuff. Right. And again, we've been here before. This isn't new. Sedna was here last year. Okay. However, it went back into Taurus, money, finances, banking, and the earth. And now it's moved into air. So when you mix the air and water energy and the power of Sedna, it can be interesting. And Gemini is your neighborhood. It is businesses. It is, finance. It is the news. It is the stock market. It's Gemini energy, the merchants. It is the mind and the communication factor and what you're hearing in the news, people talking, right? Can be gossipy. So with all of that said, the next step for me to do would be do like the astrocartography, the astro map chart for like where you live, if you're really, really, really concerned about this. And we can see where does Sedna line up on the astrocartography chart, geography wise, on the map of your country. So for those of you in the US, if you want me to do a chart about that, let me know, put it in the comments. And so for this week, the big takeaways is at the end of the week, we've got the sun and Uranus together, shocks and surprises. Maybe interest rates are lowered. Maybe interest rates are raised because it's a surprise. And I'll be honest, most people seem to think, from what I can gather under the different finance channels that I watch, just so I can kind of report to you guys and have an understanding what the hell I'm talking about instead of being vague and just saying money and banking. The overall belief right now, the feeling seems to be that the Fed isn't going to raise interest rates. Some even thought the Fed was going to start lowering rates, which is why the stock market started climbing and started going higher, right? We had like what they call a bull run, right? Taurus, a bull run, of course, right? So this would be a shock and surprise if this happened. If the Fed raised interest rates, this would be a shock. If the Fed lowered them, I think it would be a shock, because everybody has the sentiment right now that it's probably going to hold off, possibly like not do anything. But I do know that recently the inflation numbers came in and said that inflation increased. So that is the goal, is to get the prices down for the consumer. All right. Hope this helped. You got any questions, comment below. And I see you, me and Taffy, see you in the next video. Bye-bye.